canceling student debt. Should the taxpayers bail out student debt? Got a unique take on this one. We did a video on this prior, and the sound quality was a little bit choppy, and there's some interesting points that the community brought up that actually changed my perspective a bit, and that's why I love the comment section so much in our community, things that I wasn't even thinking about. And so that's how we learn together. If I was watching these videos, I'd be having my earbuds in and I'd be going through all the comments and just putting my input, getting input from others in there, and there's so much information to learn from just the back and forth in the comment sections, which is beautiful, and why I'm not going to Spotify, Joe Rogan. Not going to Spotify. Just no comment section there. There's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Every single time I go through a YouTube video, I like to go through the comment section and check it out. But anyway, Elizabeth Warren seems to be the main proponent for just paying off all the student loans with the taxpayer money, mainly because she's, just my personal opinion, could be completely wrong about this, but she's a Harvard graduate. I think her husband's a Harvard graduate. They're worth about $10 million, I believe. Made quite a bit of money selling her book on how to take the taxpayers' money. But she says you should cancel student debt. I happen to disagree. What I think is, rather than just throwing a bunch of the taxpayers' money at this situation, you should be thinking about, how do we make it so this situation doesn't happen in the first place? Why did this situation happen? Well, it would turn out when kids aren't even fully developed yet, when they're 18 years old, they're getting pressured into going to this fantastic environment where they're away from their parents, and they can go into the dorms, and there's such a, great life down there at the college. And so you can take this loan and you can go to this fancy, prestigious college here. And it's only so ironic because later on, if you're, a businessman or businesswoman out there and you realize how hard it is to get a loan from the banks, it makes you think like, wow, if I was just 18 years old trying to go to college, I'd get as much money as my heart desired. Interesting the way it works like that. The reason it works like that is because if they give us a loan for a business loan or a credit card loan or whatever it is, they know it's an unsecured debt, and you could bail out on that debt by going bankrupt. Now, I don't obviously recommend going bankrupt, but you can. It's not going to be held against you until you literally, even after you literally pass away, which is what a student loan is. A student loan, for some reason, they wrote into the law, or however it got put in there, is that it's a secured debt. And the security on the debt is you, literally. Like, you can't get out of it. There's nothing you can do. You can go bankrupt, still there. You can pass away, still there. Just doesn't go away. So the first thing I would say to fix student debt wouldn't be to go to somebody that's waiting tables or somebody that's a chef at a restaurant or whatever it is and say, hey, we need you to pay, your taxes need to go towards bailing out the kids that were living in luxury down there, and it is what it is. It's like, no, then what? How does that make the people feel that paid off their student loans? How does that make you feel? If you did go to college and you did pay off your student loans and you did everything the right way, how does it make you feel if somebody like Elizabeth Warren says, well, if you just happen to go to college within this duration of time, we'll pay it off with the taxpayers' money. We've been throwing money at all kinds of things. Might as well throw a little bit more money there. It's like, Now, what we really should do, Elizabeth Warren, since you're the senator, maybe this is something that might help. Maybe, just maybe, there should be a financial literacy class in high school, specifically talking about the difference between secured and unsecured debts. Maybe that should be a prerequisite instead of trigonometry. Seems like a little bit more of a logical thing if you want an economy to do better. Maybe you should teach the kids basic financial literacy. How to get a credit card. Why is a credit card different than a student loan? Very interesting for, the youth to have that as a prerequisite. Seems very interesting. How to make an LLC, number 101. How to make an LLC, 101. Why do people get an LLC? What's the difference between an LLC and an S-Corp? Why do people do that? What's all those different things? Why is that not a prerequisite in high school? Why don't you learn that in like freshman year of high school and really get that information? I mean, that's the stuff you should be teaching. But no. Not that. Make sure trigonometry and calculus, though. That's much more important. Algebra, all that stuff. Make sure they know that. Make sure they know that. And make sure they do the prerequisites when they're in college to make sure it lasts a whole 4 years. Make sure that college lasts a whole 4 years. Not that you could probably jam this information in that really matters to whatever job you're trying to get within 6 months, a year. Maybe even less than that if you actually are passionate about it and just were self-driven to learn this information. But no, let's make it last 4 years. Give them a loan for all 4 years. Oh yeah, let's put them in dorms that are ridiculously overpriced. And let's charge them for books from 1982 that cost $300 that we picked up for $10. But it's the only one that you can buy for the class. Ha ha ha. It's like, really think about this system that's in place. But then you have people like Elizabeth Warren out there that are just going, let's overlook all of the things that caused this and let's just throw taxpayers' money at it. That'll be great. That's how we do it, right? Makes a ton of sense. So the first thing I would say is actually teach financial literacy to the youth. And maybe they're watching YouTube videos and maybe they can learn there. There's actually a lot of information there. I'd argue a lot more information there than a college. I happen to think we're living in a day and age now where college is kind of a bad investment, in my personal opinion. Maybe if you're going to like a lower cost college, or you're going to get your AA or something like that at a community college, then that's probably the better route to go. But to think you need this prestigious degree like Elizabeth Warren, your Harvard degree, fancy Harvard degree. It's not realistic. And so the first thing I would say is teach financial literacy. Then I would say, after, say they did get this loan, well, they knew the amount. They knew what they were signing up for. So to bail them out is not only completely wrong to do to the taxpayers that are, what's ironic is those who don't go to college are statistically less likely to make as much money as somebody that does go to college. So the student that got the luxury of going to college, got to go to some fancy college, got themselves in a lot of debt, and they knew what debt they were getting themselves into, but they did get themselves in debt, and now the interest is accumulating, and it's put them in a pretty rough position. But the person that did not get to go to that luxury to statistically get more money, like a college kid statistically gets more money than somebody without a college degree, has to pay more taxes towards the kid that lived in luxury, or the student that lived in luxury and did was lucky enough to go to college. That's not something nobody is obligated, or you don't. Society doesn't owe you a college degree. Society in the United States owes you the pursuit of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, but say pursuit in the beginning didn't really. Anyway, you're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the United States. You're not entitled to free stuff. Nothing is free. That's what I really want to get across in my videos. Nothing is free. If you think things are free, hey, Elizabeth Warren, you want to work for free? I think you make a lot of money as a senator and make a lot of money off your books. You want to give out your books for free? Because free seems to be the message. I guess free is a really good way to sell something. When you say, oh, well, my message is free stuff. It's like, well, that's how you get numbers and you get elected. But anyway, with your Harvard degree and your $10 million in the bank. The next thing I would say is, this is after talking with the community, and this is why I really love the comment sections, because I wasn't thinking about it this way. I was just kind of more cold about it, I guess, saying, hey, you signed up for it. It is what it is. But this is something that I agree with, especially knowing that the Fed gives out 0% loans to the banks. So that when the commercial banks need money and you need a house, and they charge you 4 or 5% a year on your house, and you buy $1 million house and you get a loan from the bank for $1 million, the bank gets a loan for 0% from the Fed. Yeah, you heard me right. 0%. When interest rates are at 0, and please don't raise it 0.5% or else everything goes haywire. Don't raise it 0.5%. No, don't do that. Please don't raise it please don't do that. 0.5% capital. With things I would love to have capital unlimited at 0.5% annual. But anyway, right now they It's a little better than that. They get it at 0% interest. So if the banks are willing to give a bank 0% interest loans, then I think it is in the best interest of the nation to give college students, especially because it's a secured debt on them as a person for the rest of their life to pay it off. I think it's only fair that a college student gets a 0% loan for a college education. Wouldn't that work, Senator Warren? Senator Warren, why don't you put that in the bill? Take a loan, 0%. Better yet, just get the government completely out of college. Just go away. Just leave it. That would make it so much better. The government just stopped meddling with college. Know why it would be better? Because there would actually be free market competition and people would realize that a college education really shouldn't be that expensive. You could get these master classes for $200 a year or whatever. You can have Gordon Ramsay teaching you how to be a chef. I mean, there's so much things, especially now that we're in the online day and age. I mean, this is just the fact that I can talk to you through YouTube. YouTube wasn't even around until 2007, I believe. 2007, 2008. The iPhone didn't even come out till 2007. The whole world has been flipped upside down by the technology revolutions of the last, 12 years, 13 years? It's not that long. And realistically, when the iPhone came out, it still took like 5-6 years for the good apps to come out, for the Instagrams and the Facebooks and all these things to really get developed. And then you have these the faster and faster iPhones. The first one wasn't really that great. You had that first kind of aluminum one. Then you have the 3G, the 4G. Anyway, the iPhones now are like these just ridiculous supercomputers in our pockets with cameras that are better than like a $20,000 camera back in 2002. Like, just ridiculous, the technology that we have here. You have so much more ability on this iPhone than you ever had. College was a great thing because they had a library, prior to the internet being around. And you have every single answer to every single question on your mind at your fingertips. You can literally just ask it. Just literally talk to your phone and get any answer that you ever wanted right there at your hand. But college should be, $50,000 a year or semester or whatever it is now. And then not only that, it should be a interest accumulating thing after you go to college. It's like, who designed that? I want to know who designed that into the framework where it makes it so that you cannot get out of it. And I want to know the exact interest rates, why they are those exact interest rates. Those are the things I want to know about. It's like the design is designed for these students to be put in a bad position. It's made that way by design. So why do the banks get 0% loans, but a college student has to pay these ridiculous interest rates? That would be a solution. At least it would dramatically help the students so they don't at least feel like, oh, okay, inflation is growing at, around 3 to 5% in that figure. That's rough. And then on top of that, I'm paying extra on the debt that I already have. And you just feel backed in a corner at that level. I can only imagine. So what my sacrifice would be, or I don't know if that's the right way to say, the taxpayers, that's not really even a sacrifice though. It's like, okay, just pay the loan back at 0%. And imagine how much that helps, that they know that at least they're breaking down that principal and the principal isn't eating them up year over year over year. That makes it a lot more fair. The next thing I would say is, so that's the first thing is teach it in high school. Then after financial literacy classes, it just blows my mind they don't teach us stuff in high school. But once you're at college, if you take that debt on, know that there's at least, give them a grace period of 10 years of no interest. Why is that so hard to do? 10 years of no interest. After that, the interest rate is relatively fair. It doesn't have to be some ridiculous interest rate like it is now. That would be a real solution to this problem. Then, better yet, rather than listen to, I'm sure Senator Warren loved printing the amount of money that they've printed, that the Fed has printed in the last year and a half, way over, over 10 trillion at this point. I'm sure she's really happy about that. But instead of doing that, what if you just made no taxes for 3 years? I've talked about this in prior videos. What if all individuals who get a W-2 got to keep all of the money in the W-2 check? I actually just talked about this in the Monday motivation video I just posted about when I was a waiter, how I'd look at my W-2 and because I made so much tips, it would just say void. And I'd have like a $2,000, $3,000 check and it would just be void. All the money was taken. every dollar of the check just because I made so much in tips. And so I wonder, rather than the $1,400 and the stimulus checks, what if the check that everybody got didn't have everything taken out of it? Because one of the best incentives of being in your own business is that the money doesn't get taken out right when you make a profit. You hold that money and then you pay it at the end of the year. Big difference between owning your own business and a W-2. A W-2, it automatically gets taken out. And trust me, I remember when I was a waiter. How much money would you, watching this video, have saved if the government just didn't tax you for a full 3 years? I think it'd be more than what we got in these little $1,400 stimulus checks. But here's the irony, because that sounds like, oh, okay, you're pushing it, Rob. That doesn't make any sense. Well, here's how it makes sense. The government, they take in roughly $3.5 trillion per year. Well, that was actually in 2019. They took in $3.5 trillion roughly in tax revenue. Well, I don't know. The 2020 numbers haven't come out yet, I don't believe, or I need to look it up if it has, but I'd imagine it's pretty close to that 3.5 trillion. So we'll say 3 to 4 trillion. Multiply that by 3 years. It's literally either the same or less than what they've spent. And actually, I would definitely argue that it's a lot less if you did 3 full years of no taxes. And keep in mind, we're only a year and a half into, how much money printing that they've done. So instead of printing all the money they've done over a year and a half, make it so there's no taxes for 3 years straight. Then everybody gets to keep those paychecks. And then on top of that, drop the interest rates to the same interest rates as what the Fed is giving the banks. Wouldn't that be fair? Wouldn't that be fair for these college students who are struggling just to pay off these debts, to make them just let them get the same interest rate as a bank? I think the bank will be all right. But no, these types of solutions are, this doesn't make any sense, right? But common sense isn't very common. I think it's Voltaire said that. Common sense is not common at all. And Elizabeth Warren, don't know if she is in the common sense category. But the other thing I wanted to talk about with this is imagine, so back to that point, imagine when everybody keeps 100% of their check, how much more would somebody want to go to work? Instead of incentivizing somebody to stay at home and get unemployment, how much more incentive would the American get to go back to work if they got to keep 100% of their check? It's like, wait a minute, I can pay off this debt real quick if I can keep 100% of my check. I mean, they're not going to take out every check. They're not going to take out that huge cut, that 40%, 30%. Oh, yeah, I want to get to work. I get to keep everything. Fantastic. The irony is they could do that for 3 years and likely have saved money based on how much they've printed, because at the end of the day, after they printed, then it gets trickled down in the commercial banks, and then the commercial banks give out all these bad loans. And so the money gets diluted by tenfold because of the commercial banks. So it's like they might have printed 10 trillion or whatever the exact amount is. I believe it might even be up there at 15, 16 trillion, somewhere in this. A trillion wasn't a number we used to say, but it's very common now. That gets multiplied through the banking system. And because interest rates are at zero, they're just money going everywhere in every different direction. They say they're going to raise it 0.5%. I beg to differ. I think they're going to drop it. Like in a year, we'll go by and go, actually, we changed our mind. It's going to be negative interest rates because we really want the banks to just give money out really bad. And so when the dollar's been diluted, we're already, even if you didn't go to college and you have college debt, you're already facing a bit of a crisis of inflation. So if inflation they're saying is 3.4%, jumped up a little bit over 1% since the last time they talked, I believe it's probably a lot higher than that personally, just my opinion. Disclaimer. And everything in this video could be completely wrong. Disclaimer, not to be taken as any type of advice or to be taken as fact. Disclaimer. I know people love when I say the disclaimers on here, but I don't need Elizabeth Warren. I think I'm allowed to talk about Elizabeth Warren because she's a public official. Anyway, I think it's only fair to make it so that the interest rates are zero for students if you're making interest rates at zero for the big banks. That's pretty much all the things that I wanted to say on this, and it just bothers me that there isn't that much common sense. And again, if they just decided to not have everybody pay taxes for 3 years, how much would that have boomed the economy? The economy would have been doing real well, and people would be very, very excited to go to work if they got to keep their entire check. But the sheer irony of it is that would actually likely have saved them money for how much that they've printed with the stimulus packages. And it would have helped with the student debt crisis because they would have more money to pay down the principal, especially if they didn't have these ridiculous interest rates on the student loans. So if you're a student and you agree with the things that I've said, please make your voice heard down below. If you disagree with what I've said, throw it in a comment down below. I said it in, I always say it in my videos, the comment sections is where the real gold is in YouTube, and why I'm so against Joe Rogan going to Spotify, because I miss the comment sections. I don't even want to watch the video if I can't make my voice heard. And so these comment sections and hearing people go back and forth in the comments is actually how I could add on some more information to this video that I didn't put in my first video on this. So please let me know your thoughts. If you like the video, please do throw a like. If you dislike the video, throw a dislike, but I'd appreciate it if you did a like instead. Look at it, bust out the fancy like pillow. If you could like the video, I'd really appreciate it. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm when you change that like button from gray to blue. And if you would like to be part of the channel, if you would like to subscribe, would really love to have you as a subscriber as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. And again, I hope this video helped in some way, and I hope it helps. Maybe Elizabeth Warren watches it. I don't know. I'm not a Harvard education individual. I'm definitely not on that level. Just a kid in his warehouse. But maybe it helps. All right, thanks so much for watching. See you at the next video. Signing out.